are you ready? I'm ready. Over to you. Please give Simone a round of applause.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Okay. Apologies, that was my problem.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having us. So my name is Simone, working at developer relations at IoTEX. And yeah, in these few minutes, I want to talk about new space that maybe it's new for most of you, and I hope this will be inspiring and interesting and exciting for you guys. So I'm going to talk about DEPIN, which stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. And I'm going to talk about this exciting, truly exciting new protocol we have been working on during the past year. And DEPIN is a new emerging space in Web3 where machines in the physical world and physical world utility generated by these machines and token economies converge together to bridge the gap between Web3 and real-world economies, right? And this is a space that holds an immense potential for Web3. Let's try to go to the second slide. So how these DEPIN applications work, right? You may have heard of existing DEPIN applications, actually. I'll give you one example, right? Helium, maybe it's the most popular one, right? Where you have this decentralized network infrastructure of devices that is owned by the community, and it's providing a service to end users. And there are like rewards on a blockchain that incentivize network device owners to maintain these networks and even to grow it, right? So these applications, there are several others, right, that are emerging, and they're all like based on this flywheel that sustain them, right? And it's pretty easy to understand how much potential this application hold, right? Because as I said, there are these token incentives that somehow incentivize with on-chain rewards users to deploy some sort of network in the physical world using some sort of hardware. And while this infrastructure grows, more actors are attracted, can be developers, can be application builders, but for sure there are end users who are interested in leveraging this infrastructure. And so these end users, out of the fees of these end users, you can generate rewards for incentivize people to maintain this network, so to keeping these devices running. And so with more requests from end users, the token price also appreciates, right? And this increases the incentive for more people to deploy more pieces of this infrastructure, basically setting this flywheel in motion, right, and sustaining applications. So maybe you can already like notice that utility in this type of application is real, right? It's very easy to generate utility on the opposite of like the apps that are self-enforcing on the blockchain itself, where it's very hard to understand what's the real utility is. And of course, this is an obvious consequence of bridging Web3 applications with real-world utilities, because they're real utilities, right? So in this slide, you see the difference in size. We want to give you an idea of the difference in size between real-world market and the current Web3 market and DeFi and cryptocurrency market size, right? And makes it clear to understand like when you can bridge Web3 and real-world economies and allow the Web3 to drive not only on-chain economies, but real-world economies, then you can like take the Web3 market size to huge heights compared to what Web3 is doing now. So in this slide, we have collected several applications in the space. So on the left side, you see like more server-oriented DePIN applications where the infrastructure is a digital infrastructure. And for sure, you are familiar with some of them, like IPFS, so in the files, decentralized file storage utility. Some of them are related to decentralized network services or decentralized computational power, right? And moving on the right side of this slide, there are more interesting and innovative applications in the space that involve hardware, right? And that's where, for example, Helium falls, right? Or also, I don't know, there are several others like STEP, or using devices or network of devices to create a physical infrastructure in the world. And probably you are also familiar with some of these that involve decentralized network of sensors or decentralized networks of connectivity components like Helium, or even for location services, right? So, but actually, apart from these popular applications, there are a lot of emerging new projects in this space that are going to deploy new applications in this space. And that's why we believe, and it's actually easy to understand, right, that these applications are most probably going to drive the next waves of Web3. That's the point when you can connect Web3 with real world. And it's easy to imagine if there is a device, right, that anybody can just buy and put it in function and just start earning income from the service, from the infrastructure that they are joining, basically making it a liquid, right, allowing infrastructures that today only maybe governments or huge funded companies can deploy, and allowing actually, and maybe they don't want to deploy it, maybe they find it useless or not interested in that infrastructure. If you have a way to allow communities to own these infrastructures and build them piece by piece and getting rewarded in a decentralized way, then you can like create totally new services that are self-sustained thanks to blockchain technology. So how these DEPIN applications are currently built, right? Like the ones that we mentioned. Typically, you have these devices that are collecting data. You have some sort of token economy on a blockchain that sets rewards. And then typically there are these centralized oracles on a server that collect the data from the machines and process this data and generate some proof to trigger some token economy on the blockchain and reward these device owners, right? But of course, if you're familiar with Web3, you are also familiar with the limitations of centralized architectures, right? So of course, you have like no trust in this type of applications where you have a single server owned by someone who is managing the data. There is no transparency. Both the server owner may, for example, modify the algorithm or modify the parameters to, for example, get increased rewards for some entities in the network. Or you can have hackers just attacking this server, right? Of course, there is almost no composability for this type of applications. These applications build a whole like new infrastructure that's vertical for their specific needs, and nobody can use it, right? Nobody can take advantage of the proofs that this network is generating, and that they are just using it for their own use case, as well as there can not be like device manufacturers that can create a device and easily connect this device to these infrastructures. And of course, letting alone privacy concerns, right, in this type of centralized solutions. So the thing is, what if we could create a product, an architecture that's decentralized and that can abstract away the complexities of this type of applications, and also, as I said, be decentralized, so trustworthy, and as a consequence also fully composable, and also preserving data ownership of the people that contribute the data to the architecture. And so that's basically the story behind the creation of the WebStream protocol that we have been working on during the past 1 year and still improving and going to mainnet this year. And WebStream is an off-chain computational layer that is whose goal is to connect to real-world devices in an easy way, for like in an IoT-oriented way, collect data streams, process these data streams in a decentralized way, and generate verifiable proofs on top of this data from machines that can be used to trigger, so to be trusted by smart contracts and trigger on-chain economies or on-chain whatever trusted logic this network is supposed to trigger. So WebStream basically makes it, to be more clear, right, about the utility of WebStream. If you want to deploy a DEPIN project today, it's extremely hard because you have not only to face the complexity of deploying or building IoT devices or machines, right? If it's a router, if it's a sensor, right? Make it secure, and then build your IoT logic for your data processing logic, and then the blockchain logic, right? But you also have to build the whole infrastructure and all the protocols, the data protocols behind it, and also the firmware for the devices, right? It's a huge work. And so this is kind of making it programmable. So WebStream is a programmable infrastructure for DEPIN projects. So if you want to deploy these type of projects, you don't have to think of the infrastructure. You can just deploy your IoT logic to WebStream and just focus on your device data and just deploy your token economy, and you don't have to build everything from scratch. And the fact that WebStream is decentralized also makes this opens to composability into this space, where if you are a device manufacturer, you can decide to monetize. You have your expertise in IoT, you can decide to monetize on the device. So you create a device, make it compatible, and then the app developers can decide to build a D app that uses your, I don't know, GPS tracker or your router into their applications. And so this will unlock the ability to create these applications much faster. WebStream is also chain agnostic. So IoTEX is also a layer 1 blockchain that will orchestrate this architecture at layer 2. But the proofs generated by these applications that are deployed on WebStream can be sent to any blockchain. So if your D app runs on Polygon or runs on Ethereum, you can use the WebStream layer 2 to create your DEPIN project and trigger your token economy on one of these chains, basically bringing DEPIN to Ethereum and to EVM and also non-EVM ecosystems. So the WebStream DevNet has been released in June. And so actually you are encouraged, if you are a builder or a developer, to explore it at devnet.webstream.com. We are working, as I said, toward the decentralization of this network. And if you start exploring the WebStream DevNet, you will notice that we not only deployed the protocol, but we also deployed an official UI using the API of the protocol that makes it extremely easy to do the development, the deployment, the testing of these applications that you can create using popular languages like Rust or Golang or AssemblyScript, because the execution engine is based on WebAssembly. And so it does not end here, right? Because what's the very, very first essential requirement of applications that work on IoT data, right? And it's data analytics, right? For sure, if you're deploying this application, you want to have some analytics on how many devices are sending data to your application and what's the volume of the data, right? And so WebStream comes with this integrated analytics API that allows the developers to get access directly to these statistics and either just have to build their custom dashboard on this data, or they can just send this data to existing charting applications, like there are some even dedicated to DEPIN called DEPIN DD or other popular charting applications. And you can also create your custom metrics for your data that can be injected and made available from the API for creating these types of data dashboards. Think of, I don't know, if you are creating a decentralized infrastructure of weather station, then maybe for sure you want to display data or analytics about the data that your network is collecting. So finally, of course, we are not alone. It's not something that we decided to build right in a closed room. We're working with pioneers of the DEPIN space, and some of them are small projects emerging, some of them are bigger. All of them are building in many different verticals, which is very exciting. And we are also looking forward to seeing what these people will build with WebStream architecture. And yeah, just a final word, I'm just showing some links here. If you are a builder or a developer, feel free to check out these resources. Or if you just are interested and I inspired you enough to look and learn more into this DEPIN space and WebStream, feel free to follow us at these links. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you. I hope it was interesting enough, and thank you for having us, and enjoy the event.
Thank you so much, Simone. Appreciate that. Before you go, look, that was really well timed, by the way, spot on. But does anyone have a question for Simone? Can I have one question? If not, no problem. But just wanted to check, give everyone a chance. Oh, here we go.
Hello, thank you for the talk. I was curious about the proofs. What do they represent exactly? Is it like the device to the data that's coming from the device, and then those are maybe Merkleized or something, and then put into a contract, or how do those proofs actually look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you think about proofs, of course, you start thinking about ZK maybe, stuff like that, right? Of course, proofs can be many things. It depends on the applications, on the DEPIN application. What we are providing is a decentralized infrastructure that eventually will be decentralized in the sense that there will be multiple nodes in the WebStream network that can join your project and decide to become node operators for your project and even multiple projects. And then when your project reaches the minimum number of nodes that it requires, depending on the settings, then the applet of your project on the layer 2 will start being executed by this network of nodes on the same IoT data. And then you can think of the most simple proof as just a consensus on what's the result of that these different nodes reach, right? Could be think of in an easy example, right? You just have devices proving how much coverage they provided in a connectivity layer, a connectivity infrastructure. Then your applets will just process this data and say, okay, this device they will also verify most probably the authenticity of the identity of the device. They will verify that the data has not been tampered with through some signature. They will verify the actual owner of the device, and finally will calculate how much is, let's say, due to this owner in terms of rewards, right? And if all of them or the majority of these nodes agree on this final rewards amounts, then this message can be signed by these nodes, and you have a registry on the IoTEX blockchain. That's why it orchestrates these nodes, where you have device identities, you have owner of device identities and owner node operators identities, and you have projects metadata that lists what nodes identities are running for that project, and finally with this information you can verify on chain that a specific information that can be the amount of rewards for a user has been signed by the majority of the nodes that run a specific project. But we actually designed it modular, in a modular way. So the consensus is a module. This is one option, right? But you can have multiple options. You can even have a custom consensus for your specific network. And of course, ZK is an option, right? And maybe we will provide something here, but ZK is a little bit special because it depends on the project. It has a circuit that is very vertical. It's hard to provide a general purpose solution, right? Probably we can facilitate with some SDKs, or some libraries or some pre-made templates for the most popular applications. But yeah, I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Great. Final round of applause there for Simone Romano of IoTEX. Thanks so much, Simone. You can follow him on Twitter. Very simple. Simone Romano, SIMONE. And if you don't know the username, which I am going to share with you very quickly, it is ZIMNE1. Or you could just search Simone Romano and